Morning, y'all. This is your next and latest episode of Love Over Fear with your host, Zoe the Peacemaker. That's me, the dude with the glasses. I'm rocking out to some dubstep right now, which I also call robot music. Um, let's see. Shout out to the Water Wellness Center, 3727 South, 900 East. Those guys are amazing. And go down and check out their water and their supplements and all those fun things. Um, So today we're going to talk about abundance versus scarcity. To give you guys a little bit of background, I haven't done this yet in any of my videos, and I'm going to make a video, I've decided, about my life story briefly. But to give you a short synopsis, I'm Canadian. So, that was the chair I didn't. Anyways, that's my icebreaker. I tell people I'm Canadian, and they laugh, and I laugh, and we high five. Um, and I was a big time snowboarder. I was like, my dream was going pro, and I lived in a car for like 2 years and traveled all over the U.S. from age 17 to 19. Where was his parents? They ask. Exactly, good question. Mom loved me and trusted me enough to do whatever I wanted, and Dad tried to like stop me, and of course I obviously rebelled. But I met a lot of people and went a lot of places and did a lot of cool things, and learned that there was really no one way of living. That at every state of the US was also another state of consciousness or a state of being, and there's no one state that is perfect for everyone. Um, and that means geographically and consciously and spiritually that there are many states to live in, and some are more favorable than others. Anyway, I settled down in Park City, Utah. Woo woo, big ups, Park City. And it was just heaven for me compared to the place that I had come from. I settled down. Eventually, I got married. I had a son, a beautiful son. His name is Zen. Right? Cool. He's an amazing child. He's smarter than me. He's 12 years old. I swear I will have him do my taxes next year. The kid is incredible. You know, when he's not breakdancing and doing commercials, like he's unreal. Um, so I settled down, had him, and then I had another son, which unfortunately I lost. We lost during the pregnancy, and it was a very, very hard time for us because it was no different than losing anybody else that you love in your life. And I took it really hard. It was the end of our marriage, pretty much. That was the last straw for us, and so we got divorced. And so I basically had lost my family, I'd lost my son, I lost my job, and I lost my house. It was like a bad country song, all in the span of like 30 days. And I went to this really deep depression. But I was like, I ain't going out like that. I'm a survivor. I'm a thriver. I'm strong. I can do anything. And I rebuilt my life. I like got back on my feet. I started my clothing company. Some of you might know of it. It's called Ghetto Slider. And I that was actually Ghetto Slider was based off of the travels that I was doing. We called ourselves the Ghetto Sliders Crew when we were traveling around the U.S. So that's how that name was born. And so I dumped just everything, every penny, heart, soul, day, night, weekends, in any time in the last in the between the year 2000 and 2010. If you were asleep on vacation or taking a weekend off, I was working. I can promise you that. Put a lot of stress on me, and a lot of stress on everybody around me. But I thought that was the right way to do it, and I was like really like neglected my spirituality, any of my personal mental needs, and somewhat my physical. I was like running myself into the ground. And then 2009 came, housing crash. I was also like, I had gotten clean and gotten back onto drugs and alcohol, um, you know, morphine, Oxycontin, Klonopin, drinking alcohol, Wednesday morning, Wednesday night, times I was supposed to be at work, um, taking pills to get over the hangover and the anxiety of yeah. So 2009, this all came to a head, and I lost my company. I was $100,000 in debt, and I couldn't even afford drugs. So now I'm like I was in withdrawals, and I was getting clean, and I had basically decided my life was completely worthless at this point. I had nothing to offer anybody that I had believed. It wasn't even an emotional pain anymore. I had convinced myself logically that the world would be better without me, that I'm just sucking in air and drinking water and eating food and taking up space that some other human that was worthy of those things could be. I know it's messed up, but for those of you who've had depression and been in dark times, you know what I'm talking about. So it even got to the point where I had been calling, um, I had been calling uh, life insurance companies to see which ones did and did not pay out in the event of a suicide. And so I'd found a couple. I had like planned the whole thing out. I had actually bought a shotgun for security reasons. We almost got robbed like a year before that when we were at the shop at Ghetto Cider. So I was like, okay, well, we need to have this for security purposes. So I had that. I had a couple of things left over from when we closed down the shop. That was one of them. So here's the thing. Every time that I went to go do it, I couldn't. And it wasn't that I was afraid to. I'd already done so many crazy things in my life. I mean, when you're a snowboarder, you're jumping off 60-foot cliffs every day. You're not really afraid of much after that. You play with death on a daily basis, and then you laugh in its face. So I wasn't afraid to die. I wasn't afraid to kill myself. It was the looks on my mom and my son's face that I just couldn't come to terms with. That they weren't like I could see it. They weren't sad. They were sad, but not as sad as they were confused. They didn't understand why that I had so much going for me still, even with all of my losses and my mistakes. That it wasn't that dire. That it wasn't that hopeless. And that's the funny thing about emotion, and the funny thing about perspective, and the scary thing about your mind is that it can take you to a place that doesn't exist, full of fear and darkness. And so I get teared up about it because I know that other people feel this way. So I couldn't do it. I had to come up with something, and so I had to just I don't really like get on my knees. I went on a walk and I just like dropped to my knees and I'm like, what? I was like looking at the sky. I'm like, God, what do you want for me? And I'm like asking myself, what do I want for myself? And it was clear as day. It was like peace. It was very clear to me that I had accomplished a lot of these things that I wanted to, but I realized they were just ego based and they weren't real. You can tell if something's real or not if it goes away. Like when you get high, when you make a lot of money, when you have a lot of friends that are just your friends because they're popular and you have a clothing company and you make money and they just disappear forever. Like they don't none of that's real. Things like love for yourself is corny. I know it sounds corny and cheesy, but self-love is number one. Gotta love yourself. If you don't, then nothing else matters for whatever reason. It's perspective. Uh, love of your family. Those people. I believe in reincarnation. I believe my son was in my life before, and he'll be in my next life after, and that those bonds are real. And there are some things like bliss and happiness. Yes, those things seem to come and go, but the bliss and happiness is that I'm talking about does not come from things. It doesn't come from material items. It doesn't come from external stimulus. What I'm talking about is when you look inside yourself and you see who you truly are and you see the gift that life really is. And you open your eyes and you look around and you see the miracle that we live in, this reality. Plants and animals and this universe and this symphony of synchronicity of all these things that work in perfect order with or without our interaction. Like you can predict where the moon is going to be within a millimeter 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now, and it will be there. There's no big mechanical arm that humans invented, that we stuck on the earth and it holds the moon and it makes sure. No, that is a rock floating in space. And just based on the divine physics, which I'm going to coin that phrase right now, I've never even thought of that. Like physics are divine. It's this organization of creation, of perfection, and this whole system just works perfectly all the time. We've gone around the sun 4 billion times, and the moon has gone around us more than that, and yet here we are, alive on this rock that's hurtling through space at 60,000 miles an hour in a solar system that's hurtling through space at the same speed. And yet here we are alive to experience this every single day. Man, I'm sure I just got off on a way long tangent. I have no idea where I started. The point is, when you tune in to happiness, that's where we were. When you tune into who you truly are and how we are truly connected and part of this huge, awesome divine system, that doesn't go away. That's not an ego-based happiness. That's a heart-based happiness. It's a love-based happiness. It's not something you get. It's something you are. It's something you are, and it's something you emanate from your body and from every pore of your being, and it's something you share with other people. It's something you bring to the table. It's not something you get from others, if that makes sense. So, peace. Let's go back to peace. I realized all of these things were fleeting, and all I really wanted was peace. Well, what did peace mean? What does peace mean to people? What does it mean to me? Well, to some people, it just means no fighting. And in a way, yeah, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to fight reality. I don't want to fight the demons or whatever you call it, your own ego inside. The animal side of me, the mammalian part of me that wants to like consume and destroy things. Like I just wanted to be like a happy person. I just wanted to be at peace. I want to be cool with whatever's going on. Even if I can't control it, I just want to be okay with it. And that to me, for the first time in a long time, I saw a goal. I saw something that I truly wanted that resonated with my heart and not just with my head or my wallet. I wanted something that for the first time in a long time, was real. And so 5 years later, one of the first things I did, I went to Impact Trainings, which was a big healing experience for me. I'd been studying shamanism since I was like 14 years old, but I hadn't been practicing it. So I went back to learning it again and applying it and actually doing it in my life. And I learned, I listened to Louise Hay, you can heal your life and you can do it. I listened to like everything Wayne Dyer ever said. I listened to Don Miguel Ruiz. I read all of Carlos Castaneda's books. I read Eckhart Tolle. He's really the master of ego. Like that guy understands ego really well. And just a handful of other things. So it was this huge drop in my life. These two huge catastrophic events, which some people would never recover from one, or some people have never even experienced in their lives. It's, some people are 50, 60, 70 and haven't had to deal with a death of their own child, or being homeless, or dealing with or fighting addiction, overcoming addiction. And all of these things had hit me by the time I was 30 years old. So I'm 35 now, I'll be 36 in not too long. And my last 5 years have been dedicated to peace. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, one of them is learning. One of them is applying. One of them is reapplying. And the other one is mastering. Every moment, really, the simplest way to put it is like, it doesn't have to be a religion or a belief. It's a choice between love and fear, which is why I have created the series Love and Fear, because peace does not have to it doesn't have to be a big, long, drawn-out plan. It's a choice between love and fear, or peace and chaos, or peace and conflict in every single moment. It's not a title. You don't get a badge. You don't get a plaque. This guy's, peaceful. The reward is first of all, happiness, a life that works, relationships that are healthy, that work, I've noticed that peace has affected my business life, and my ability to um, deal with be humble when big amounts of money comes in, to be very humble and be in gratitude of it and not let it go to my head or my ego. And when I don't have it, when I have to work hard for it, or I have to, buckle down a little bit to trust the universe and be vulnerable, and sometimes reach out to people and be like, look, man, I need help. Um, my my path has included teaching others. So some of the methods that I used and actually created to get through that part of my life, to save my own mind, keep myself from going crazy, I created something called the Peacemaker method. And it's like a very simple process where I identify an issue, I allow myself to feel and allow myself to express everything negative about it, but then I take that energy and then I transmute it, which is called alchemy, into positive energy, and then I apply that to the situation. So I don't avoid it, and I don't just do some positive affirmation. I change how I look at it from negative to positive, and then I approach it from there. So that's called the Peacemaker method, and that's something that I started teaching in schools, and then I started teaching in rehab centers. I've taught in IHC hospitals. I've done one-on-one coaching and I've taught it to children. I've taught it to old people. I've taught it to homeless people. I've taught it to CEOs of companies, people that of all walks of life. And it's led me on all these crazy journeys. I wrote a book called The Infinite Me, which I'm rewriting um, right now. And it's just a whole book on metaphysics and everything I learned, and tells you nothing about my journey, just everything that I learned. So I'm rewriting it and including my own personal story with that. And then what have been some other things? Well, just being a loving person in my own life, having the universe test me every time you seem to master something. The universe throws you a curveball, right? So my life has basically been arriving in one way or another at this place of self mastery and enjoying that for a little while. I coasted for about a year on just pure bliss, but then it was like, okay, universe is like, okay, cool, like you're plateauing, you got to grow. Here's some crazy stuff. And so my son moved out of state. That was really painful for me, as that was something I had to deal with. And then my dad passed away from cancer in the same month, actually. And so my life is dedicated to healing myself and assisting others in healing themselves. And today I am a public speaker. I'm a shaman, a neo shaman to be exact. I am a published author. I'm working on my second, third, and fourth books. Uh, I assist people. I actually coach other light workers and healers on marketing and business, because that's kind of like my background, and teach them how to handle like the three-dimensional gritty stuff that they don't really like to do. Either do it for them or show them how to do it. So that's another way of like my diabolical plan for world peace, I like to call it, is assisting other light workers. I don't compete with other light workers. That's BS. That's not Jedi, that's Sith. I support other light workers, other people that do what I do and do what they do. I've done couples work, and I mean, just anything you could imagine that has to do with coaching or healing. Just depends. I've lived with a client before that was um, working to get clean, and that was an intense situation. So just a quick glimpse of who Zoe the Peacemaker is and where he's been. So since I'm already at the 20-minute mark, um, uh, we're going to talk about abundance and scarcity today, but I'm going to do it relatively quickly. Should I do this in another video? My heart's telling me to just shoot it off, to just blast it. So I'm going to listen to my heart, because I know that's what's up. Okay. Abundance, how is that love? And scarcity, how is that fear? Abundance, well, the earth is always abundant, as my girlfriend likes to say. The earth is abundant. Nature is abundant. Nothing in nature is designed to be unsuccessful. That was a huge realization I had a long time ago. Nothing in nature is designed to be unsuccessful, including you. Abundance is not just having money or having a lot of material things. Abundance comes in many forms. In it's a way of feeling, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of acting. Abundance is people, for example, people that are abundant, they freely accept. They have no problem accepting, and they have no problem giving. They don't believe that anything is limited. Um, they they show up for other people. They give to charity, things like that. People with scarcity mindset, they tend to be very tight with, well, they tend to have, what is it called, worth issues. So they have trouble accepting money. They have trouble advancing and getting themselves to a space where they believe that they can have more. In fact, I saw a study that a lot of people during the 2009 market crash, a lot of people that were, a guy that was making 100 grand and a guy that was making 20 grand, they lost their jobs, and then they both ended up in the same, pretty much in the same tax bracket after that because of their belief system. Now, some people, a lot of people, ended up working at McDonald's, and so there's a question to the whole abundance scarcity thing, but it depends. Here's the thing that I've learned: there's no blanket statement that applies to everybody that is true. Everybody has a different deal with the universe, and you need to figure out what yours is. If somebody else's belief is, I don't really have to work, things are just going to come into my life, and somebody else's belief is, I do have to work. I come halfway, and the universe comes halfway. It depends on which is working. For some people, the other way of thinking doesn't work. Me sitting around and just waiting for it, maybe that doesn't work for me, but it works for you. So why should I change your mindset if whatever you're doing is working, and vice versa? Why should you try to change my mindset if what I'm doing is working? Um, Scarcity is fear-based because sometimes, let's go back to the behaviors. The fear-based scarcity says, I have to steal. Some people, they steal. People, I feel bad when people break into my car. I feel bad for them because I just think it sucks that you live in a reality where you think that this is what you have to do to get by. You trust the universe so little to provide for you that you have to take what you think you deserve or need. So when people steal from me, sure, I get a little ticked off, but that's not the feeling that stays with me. The feeling that stays with me is basically pity. I feel empathy for you. I'm sorry. Um, that's not an awesome way to live. So our attitude and our mindset affects our actions. So if we believe we are abundant and we feel we are abundant and we act in abundance, that is what we'll create. But if we don't, if none of that is, if something is out of alignment, if it's not all in alignment, then it's going to interrupt your flow in or out. So anyway, super long video today. Love you all. I hope that you had some insights today, got to know me a little bit better. And like I've said before, peace is not an end destination. Anytime that I master something, I get a new opportunity to remaster it or learn a new dimension or learn it in a new depth. So, before enlightenment, what does it say? Chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Understand that finally. Another thing is peace. When it comes to it, yeah, it is not a destination. It is a goal. But the warrior understands and knows that even if they may never attain it, that there is honor in striving for it anyways. And in a way, there's almost more honor in striving for something that you won't attain, because it's easy to say, well, I'm going to put in this much effort and time and I'm going to get this as a reward. So there's no sacrifice. It's equal. It's just like, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get this. Peace is more like, you know what, I'm going to work towards this for possibly the rest of my life. And part of my piece is sharing my piece with other people and my idea of it and tools for attaining it and finding it inside of themselves. Wayne Dyer said, "Happiness is not. There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way." So, yeah, word up. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me again. I don't have the worst story in the world, sadly enough. I don't have the worst story, but I just hope that people will find that there is hope. That you can lose everything. You can make the most amount of mistakes. You can have your heart broken 100 times in the worst way and still find the light. That's the moral of the story. So, love you all. Subscribe, like, comment, see me on Facebook. Namaste, and peace out.